short series of demos and presentations will showcase the capabilities of the Rebasoft system, and I'm going to go through each of these 4 major use case areas and show you the demonstration or the relevant portion of the system that actually allows us to do this. So I'm going to start with the network security, and I'm going to come in from what is effectively my main home screen here. So when you log into the Rebasoft system, you can set up home pages, and anybody can have any screen that they particularly want. This is the screen that I choose, which actually has elements of all of the things that we talked about in that previous slide. So we have events, we have network security elements, we have inventory and security aspects of the inventory, and then we have some of the end device monitoring capabilities on here as well. I also have part of my demonstration for network access control as well, and I can show you that working in broad themes, albeit in a simulated way. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was network security, and this screen here gives me some key aspects related to network security. So it gives me the perimeter of the network. It gives me a view as to whether the network is being managed using insecure access methods. So here I'm talking about if an administrator tries to connect to the switch using Telnet or just a standard non-encrypted web browser, it means that a hacker could potentially use a packet sniffing tool and obtain the username and password that people log in to administer the switches. So when we log on to the Rebasoft system, this is the first screen that I see. Any individual user can actually use this button here to set any screen that we have on the system to be their home page, to be anything you want. So the system is extremely flexible and customizable. I choose this one because this gives me a single shot of everything security that I'm interested in as far as the system is concerned. So it gives me a view of rogue device. We've simulated some malware incidents. We've got a view of the network security, and we'll go into this in a bit more. We've got a view of the inventory and vulnerabilities and some control measures, as well as some behavior aspects of the system. And every one of these kind of multicolored boxes here is configurable so that customers can set this up exactly as they want it to be. So looking at the network security dashboard that we've set up, you can add more or less elements here. What we're interested in doing is being able to view how secure is my network and have I got any issues associated with it. So at a view, I've got my network perimeter view. I'll explain that in a second. I've also got a series of alerts which can inform me of any changes to the perimeter, and I've also got another alert here which would show me if any administrators are using things like Telnet to access the network switch infrastructure. Telnet is not great because it means that anybody in the network can intercept the username and password and potentially use that to gain access, and many of our customers struggle with this. What the perimeter does, this allows you to define all of the connections between network equipment in your network, and a lot of our customers, particularly with home working, need to understand who's coming into their network in order to protect it. So the green area here, this is just a list of the system that is automatically evaluated and approved network connections, and where it can't approve it because it doesn't know what is the other end. So for instance, here's a VPN. This VPN connection is a tunnel interface. Actually, it's my own home office tunnel interface. Fortunately, there's nobody using that today because I'm in the office doing this demo. The system will allow you to set different statuses of the interface so that you can actually go through and approve all of these things that the system can't actually do. The idea then is that the system continues monitoring it. So if someone plugs in an access point or a Netgear switch or anything else, that will appear as an alert, and it would also appear as a new unknown connection. And you can then connect to that particular device. You can find out what the device is. Is that connection? This one is down at the moment because we've been changing and testing some of our community strings and so on. You could actually say, yeah, I'm happy. This device is exactly what I want it to be. So network security, it's a very simple, but it's a necessary first step to being able to secure your infrastructure. And in fact, a lot of the data that we get from here, just if we're talking about the network maintenance side of things, a lot of the data that we collect in order to view the network interface, we can actually display as far as Here is, I've just got a small number of devices on here, and you can actually export this information. But in terms of the network maintenance savings, we know the serial numbers of all the network devices. This is a virtual one, so it doesn't have a serial number. We know the operating system, so this can be used for checking all the different operating systems. And we know the connected devices to each network switch or router, or we can view this from a traffic perspective. So this network switch, this Juniper switch here, this has got the most traffic going through it and the most network devices. So I'd probably want to have this on a high level of support, whereas this Juniper Networks device, which is actually down, or indeed this HP switch. So just going to give you a quick view. This Juniper switch here, this Juniper switch has got quite a lot of traffic going through it, quite a lot of connections to it. So I'd want to have that as a high level support switch. The HP switch here, which we'll be coming back to later when we do NAC, is only a very, very small 8-port switch, not very much traffic going through, only 16 kilobytes, and it only has one endpoint connected to it. And we therefore want to maybe treat that in a very different way. And so using this information, and I have other ways of getting to this information, would allow you to do a real-time analysis for your customers in terms of what data is there. The next thing I'm going to do a quick demo on is the asset security, and we're going to talk about how we collect the information in real time from the switches, how we do the classification, and how we then figure out the control utilization of these devices. I'll probably show a quick screenshot which will give you more of a view in real time. But effectively, the network switches here, the network switches report to me in real time, and as you can see, as I got into the office, it was probably a little bit earlier than that. You can see the number of devices that are actually on our network have increased. And what we would normally see in most environments is you have maybe some servers and printers that are always there. But during the day and in the evening, you would have a very much more of a kind of a wave function here in terms of the device connections. And you can even see that, yesterday, there was a lot more traffic, and then overnight less traffic, and as people come in the morning, you even see the traffic going on here. So the beauty of this is it allows me to go away and get the network to tell me in a network language what devices there are, and it can see in terms of MAC addresses and IP addresses, but I really don't know what those are. And so the Rebasoft system allows you to take that information and to then classify different kinds of devices. So I've got a CCTV camera. And so if I click on that CCTV camera, it tells me this is an access camera, but it also tells me of the traffic flowing through here. And I know that this data here, this port 554, is actually the CCTV recording. So we have a cloud service that is providing that recording service. Now, if this device had been hacked and it was doing other types of traffic, and we'll come on to that, the system would be able to automatically tell us and notify us in terms of the deviation from that. So we can collect and we can process information, and we can automatically come up with types of devices. So for instance, here I have a workstation, only one workstation because of COVID at the moment. There's not very many people in the office. This workstation is actually running in a VMware environment. We've done this so that we always have one workstation. How do I know it's a workstation? Well, it's told us. If I go and look at the information collected, it says that the workstation has reported to me that this is a member workstation. It is running Windows 10 Professional. It has got not very many installed applications, so it's got an update here. And we can also collect information about the number of devices, the utilization, what this system is doing on the network again, and so on. But what I'm really interested from a security perspective is not just what this device is, but its security stance. So if I go to another dashboard that we've set up, which gives me an inventory security, I can take this information, and actually just before I go on to that, not only can I show you the types of devices, I can also show you the breakdown of operating systems, the breakdown of types of Windows operating systems, installed applications, Windows features. So things like how many of my systems have got Windows Defender installed on them. So I've got a couple of services, service on my Active Directory server, thankfully, and one of my Windows servers have got Windows Defender on. But as we'll see, when I go to do my analysis from a security perspective, we'll see here that my one active Windows workstation does not have antivirus coverage on that. And I think during the original presentation, we showed this in a bit more detail. Now, knowing which workstations have got antivirus on them is great, but what you want to be able to do is to fix those workstations that don't have antivirus on them. So simply I can click view the details. It pulls up here. This is my Windows 10 workstation. It tells me where it's connected, and I can click into that device. And now I'm using that same information about the Windows workstation to see that I don't have a Windows feature enabled that's got Defender, and I don't have an antivirus system on there. And this kind of visibility is really important to our customers, because they might want to know about these kind of devices so they can go away and fix it. Or they might indeed want to deny access to the network, and we'll come back to that in real time. The other thing that people are interested in doing is, once they've got an understanding of the asset and its protection, is to look at vulnerability. And we have a vulnerability scanning capability in the system. This part of my inventory security dashboard is showing me a breakdown of my high severity vulnerabilities and my critical levels of vulnerability. Now, whether a system is critical or is high, this is based upon something called the CVSS score. The US National Institute of Science and Technology sets these in conjunction with the vendors. So for instance, you can see here I've got a Postgres critical vulnerability on version 9.4. And not only have we found this vulnerability, but again, using the Rebasoft system, I know it's connected to this device, and I can actually click into this system, and I can actually find that this system, which is as a license key server, has not only a critical vulnerability associated with Postgres, but it has a high severity vulnerability associated with Postgres, and worse, it also has a vulnerability associated with SSH on there. So this means that the bad guys could actually get access to the system. It could then they could then muck around with my database, and if this had any kind of issues with the kind of application, this may be something I wanted to fix. But I know that this is actually used for an internal old version 2. We're on version 3.4, so this is version 2 license key generation system. We keep this around just in case we need to do any versions of that. But probably what we should do is we should actually go away and update the versions of software and eliminate these vulnerabilities. But this is not a high severity system. It's isolated on a part of the network that's not open to the internet. It's open to very few systems, so it's protected in its own right. And as you can see here, that actually not only do we know that there's some vulnerabilities here, but I can also keep an eye on the level of traffic. So this is actually just doing a little bit of syslog traffic, which is UDP port 514. So any of the techies amongst you can see that's going on. Not an awful lot of traffic going on. This is yesterday that we last saw any data coming from that. So again, really powerful information in terms of how we can actually check and view vulnerability information as far as that is concerned. Now, we today run this as a once a week scan, and this is pretty much similar to the kind of scanning that you get from Qualys or a Tenable's Nessus system or Rapid7's scanning system. And we've got some really exciting developments coming along in 2021 that is going to change how this all works to make it much more real time. Scanning is really heavy on the network in terms of the number of ports you have to scan, plus also you have to know what to scan. Well, at least with Rebasoft system, even if we don't know the kind of devices that are on the network, we could scan all of these 30 devices on the network, and we could find if there is any vulnerabilities against them. And that is a really, really powerful feature that our customers really like. The final thing I wanted to talk about in terms of security was our network access control. So I'm just going to have to pop open a couple of screens here to actually give you a view as to how this works. So I have a series of devices on the network. I've got an unknown device on the network here, and I'm just going to sort it via the, it's not on this part of the network. It's actually running on one of these devices. So I have this Hewlett-Packard device. This is the only device that is enabled for network access control. And I'm going to scroll down here. And this interface here, this device here, I'm just going to pop this in a new window. I'm going to pop this device here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to simulate network access control here. So at the moment, this is an unknown device, and this is currently connected on VLAN 2 as far as the network is concerned. And actually, I'm going to say, even though it's a NetScout, I'm going to simulate this is a known VoIP system. I'm going to set that as a VoIP system. Now, this would all be done automatically. And then what we can see is the system automatically, just going to refresh this screen. This has now moved that VoIP system automatically to VLAN 3. Now, normally this would be done automatically when the device joins the network. It would determine what device is enabled on the network. But now what I'm going to do is simulate if this device is unknown and it's not approved, then what the system should do, hopefully, is it should actually port block that. So the system has automatically said that device is not allowed. It has disabled the network port, so I can't get any traffic to that. If I wanted to say, okay, I'm going to re-enable that port, you can override that in the user interface. I'm going to confirm that. And now if I refresh the screen there, we can say that that port is now up. And now I'm going to say, yeah, this really is an approved system. I'm going to set that to, I'm going to set that to be an approved system. I'm going to set that. And then basically the system will then automatically set that to being an approved device. I'm going to set that as a VoIP device now. So I'm going to move that to VLAN 3. Now you note here that I'm able to do all of this just through interacting through the UI. So nobody has to do anything complex. They just have to say, this device is a printer, this device is a workstation, and that is how easy network access control is. And we are winning quite a lot of business and engaging quite a lot of business because of the simplicity of having network access control. The final thing I wanted to say as part of this demonstration is the monitoring that we can do. And I have another monitoring dashboard here. And by the way, all of these different dashboards, depending upon who you are, allow me to provide login so that maybe someone only wants to see the monitoring, or someone wants to see risk, or someone wants to see the switches. We can provide that capability. So today I've got a couple of switches that are, or a switch that's running a couple of alerts. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to simulate me having a bad day. I'm just going to run an event generator. I'm just going to run that. The system is now saying that's successful. So I'm now going to go back to my monitoring dashboard, and you'll see I've got systems with critical alerts, critical bandwidth alerts. I've got one with a disk warning. So I'm just going to pick that here, and you can go into the system and you can see what the alert actually is. Now we've simulated those events, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my network switch to give you a more real-time view of that. So this is a high CPU alert on one of my network switches, and we know this because not only are we collecting traffic from it, but we are collecting CPU. So that alert probably happened yesterday, that high CPU genuine alert, but I simulated it today. This is not actually running very high, but the alert would run at 90% utilization. So we've just simulated that to show you what's going on. So there you have it. Rebasoft is multiple systems in one. It is an event and security monitoring system. It is a network security system. It is an inventory system. It is a vulnerability scanning system, and it is a network monitoring system.